if we have any children, please step out.
So, good morning. Fresh, ready for today?
I mean, if I see all this paper, I'm not really fresh.
Well, we're gonna get through it. First of all, actually start with this really interesting article from Cohen and Levinthal about absorptive capacity.
Absorptive what?
Capacity. So, since you're so tired, I'll just read a little bit aloud so you don't have to do anything else and just focus on what I'm reading aloud for you, okay?
Sounds nice.
Okay. So the abstract starts with the following. So in this paper we argue that the background knowledge required by the group as a whole for effective communication with the gatekeeper highlights the more general point that shared knowledge and expertise is essential for communication. At the most basic level, the relevant knowledge that permits effective communication both within and across subunits consists of shared language and symbols. At the most basic level, the relevant knowledge that permits effective communication both within and across subunits consists of shared language. What are you doing? Did you get the last part here? It was actually quite important.
Yeah, it was something about absorptive capacity. Yeah, I got it.
24% of the firms performed no R&D in the last 1 year. Okay, I need to find something else. So, good old guy. You're not listening anymore. We'll find some way to call your attention.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pastor Dr. Martin Semper. I'm here in the capacity as the chairman of the National Task Force Against Homosexuality in Uganda.
So, what?
What is he saying?
I don't really get this. Should we try to find something that is a little bit more serious and maybe more related?
Yeah, let's look for ACAP on YouTube.
We'll do that.
Hi, I'm Gavin O'Reilly, President of the World Association of Newspapers. I'm here to explain why you should join the growing number of the world's media companies, both big and small, and implement ACAP on your website. ACAP, or Automated Content Access Protocol, to give it its
Well, that's not the right
is a tool
ACAP.
to help publishers manage.
Oh, look at this. This looks interesting. It's about ACAP, and it's SDU Business Review. Should we try to watch that?
Yeah, sure.
Hello and welcome to SDU Business Review. We are talking about innovation management and more in particular about absorptive capacity in innovation. That is Michael. And this is Michael. Yeah, nice to having you here, and let's start. So Michael, what is absorptive capacity about?
Well, as you can see on this slide, we have what's called inter-organizational knowledge. Basically, it's the knowledge that's outside the firm. Then, within the firm, you recognize this knowledge, and then you assimilate it, and then you use this knowledge in a commercial need.
Oh, I see. So it's not enough to just recognize it and identify it. It's also about exploiting it and using it in the innovation process.
Yes, that's basically what absorptive capacity is.
That's interesting. So we start at an individual level, seeing how this individual is able to absorb external knowledge. And that might be related to his prior knowledge, if he's able to acquire this new knowledge, so what he knows before, right? And also the diversity of his background, his experience he made, and his creativity. So when we say that it's an individual and he's in this incremental learning process, because when he wants to understand like very sophisticated novel domains, he first has to have a basic understanding. So you should start with early problems, solve those problems, and then you can continue, and then you go up the stairs, right? Yeah, you build in the knowledge.
Hey, let's stop the video. Oh yeah, that's actually what Max is always talking about.
Oh yeah, the part here with the castle, where you always have to climb up to the big castle, and when they get there, all the people are dead.
Yeah, they build on prior knowledge to come to this point or something like that, yeah?
Yeah.
So now we have the absorptive capacity of the individuals, and then we put it into an organizational context, and then we have the organizational absorptive capacity over.
Well, that is only partly true, because of course then you have those individuals coming together and they might be good in recognizing external knowledge, but they also have to work together in order to be able to exploit it. So I wouldn't say that the organizational absorptive capacity is the sum of individuals' absorptive capacity. That's not true, because you have to have a culture for absorptive capacity, also an innovative culture, and you have to be able to exploit it, and therefore people have to work together.
I've taken time to do a little research to know what homosexuals do in the privacy of their bedroom. One of the things they do is called anal leaking.
Okay, so then we just think about an organization with different units, like the sales department, R&D, marketing, and the environment around it. And then one setup could be actually that you have, well, then gatekeepers between the different units, and also one gatekeeper to the environment, and then then you have this guy with good absorptive capacity, and he will translate somehow the external knowledge. And so that's how it works usually in companies, right?
Yeah, but then you have some other problems, because what if this guy doesn't have the absorptive capacity to translate every knowledge that is in the company, or he just doesn't know the people good enough.
Okay, so maybe he oversees some interesting knowledge, or maybe he brings in the wrong knowledge.
They have a sex practice called fisting, where they insert their hand into the other man's hand, and it goes into the anus all the way. And it is so painful, they have to take drugs, but they enjoy it.
But he has more power to take decisions, right? So he can, maybe the process gets faster, but there's some uncertainty involved, and maybe he makes failures.
Yeah, and it's also easy to know which person to contact in this setting.
Okay.
That's a benefit of it.
Okay. So a different setup would be that we have, instead of the gatekeeper, we come up with mediators and receptors. So those receptors, they act, well, multiple of them, not only an individual, so between the units and also between the environment, and they have all a good absorptive capacity, and that will then increase the certainty that you have the real related and important innovation related knowledge, right?
Yeah, but then you generate a new problem, because then you have no knowledge of who knows what and who should I go to. That can be hard to control.
And maybe also decision making will be a bit more complex. Okay.
Oh, pause it! Why? I have a great idea how we can visualize that. Come.
So, what's going on? Okay, I have a really great idea how we can visualize that. Okay, give me your cap. What? What? What are you doing? Can you hold it here? What's happening? With the sand, I can show you. What? Sand? What? No. What are you doing? How it works. No. Look, you put the knowledge into your cap and it stays there. But why? Look, Bjarke, it's ACAP. Yeah, I can see that the knowledge is absorbed by the cap, but what if it's different kind of knowledge? Different kind? Yeah, let's see. Now we have another type of knowledge. Hold the hat, please. So what happens when I put some other knowledge in the hat? You can see? That doesn't work, does it?
It didn't absorb so much knowledge.
So there's a difference here. So let's take another example. So this is my ACAP, right?
Yeah, but try to imagine that this is my cap, my sponge ACAP.
Yeah, you're SpongeBob. You look like him, right? So anyway, let's see how your sponge or your cap actually absorb the two different kind of knowledge that we have here. So come with some sand here. What's happening? It doesn't go pretty well. See? Then it's gone, right? So let's try with the water.
It's like reading articles.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's see.
Here we have the media, right?
What you can see here is actually, if we try to get this enough with the water, you can see what's happening is actually that it's wet and it was pretty dry before. So what it did was that it absorbed some of the water here. So the two different actually things is that we have in the hat there. Clearly the sand was best, like it absorbed much better, but the sponge preferred the water. So thereby there is a huge difference of how you actually absorb different kind of knowledge.
So we talked about organizations, we talked about individuals, and we agreed that it also different kinds of knowledge out there, and maybe an individual is good in absorbing this specific kind of knowledge, but maybe there's another kind of knowledge it's not so good in. So what kind of knowledge do we have actually, and how can we distinguish that?
Well, we have some technical knowledge, which is more of a kind of know-how and basic research, and then we have some organizational knowledge, who knows what and where to look and who can help me.
So then I could say, well, this on the left technical side, this is more like this explicit knowledge, and the organizational, that is more this tacit knowledge, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and then, well, when we look at the right on the right picture, it's about overlapping diversity. So what is good for absorptive capacity? Do we need overlapping? Do we need diversity, or?
You need a bit of both, actually, because if you only have overlapping, you have as we could see in the picture when it was pulsating, you have a big field that you can communicate within, but you have smaller fields that's diverse, so you can't assimilate as much absorptive capacity.
Okay.
But when you have the totally diversity, what is the problem then?
Well, maybe then it's difficult to communicate, because then I have my knowledge, you have your knowledge, and we can't find the common language to communicate, right? Yeah. So then we could say, well, overlapping is good for exploiting something and to bring it to an innovation, but diversity is good to come up with some innovative ideas.
Yeah. So you need to keep the balance and adjust it to the company culture.
Well, that's what we'll do. Great.
So looking a bit actually on the overlapping and the diversity. So looking at the cap and the sponge, they both need to have the diversity, but at the same time they need to overlap in some areas in order to create some communication. If we then go back and actually look at what they explained in the beginning with the knowledge, here we can refer to Bergen Jensen and Kogut, in the sense that Bergen Jensen talks about the STI and the DUI and the know-how in this sense and how these are related as well.
So where should we get all this new knowledge from?
Yeah, well, we could first look at the explicit knowledge, saying, okay, that is something tangible, that is something you can search for, and then you could go state of the art. Well, that is, you want to, of course, you want to somehow reach the state of the art. They could use competitor spillover, you could go governmental labs, universities, research papers, you could read all those research papers they are published. Also, guest lectures, advanced training, super users, value co-creation with users, bring in users into innovation process and learn from them as well. So there are many sources of explicit knowledge, or reading a book like, so that is explicit knowledge, search it on the internet. So there are a lot of sources that we are like living in this knowledge society, so that's not a problem actually. So I talked about explicit knowledge, but what about tacit knowledge then?
Yeah, tacit knowledge is really another kind of knowledge, and it's really hard to transfer from person to person. It's like riding a bike or swimming.
Okay.
It's something you need to be told how to do, but you also need to try it out.
So it's not written in a book, and it's like tacit a fluffy thing, right?
Yeah, it's really hard.
So, but how can I get this?
Well, as it's also written here, you can get it from interviewing experts, you can try to be learned by told how to do it, so if you get an instruction on it, or observing other people, e-learning, action learning, and roadmaps.
Well, that's interesting.